Don't know why I did that. Hello. I am incapable of just being serious. And this one is probably fucking, holy shit, the tweet that said that people are going to get annoyed with me. People got annoyed with me. So I'm a little bit nervous about today's topic. It hasn't come from nowhere. I'm not just talking shit. This is actually something. I'm going to start with a story. Let's start with a story, shall we? Now, how are we? Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Rain. How are yas? Hang on. Let me just fucking... Do you know what's amazing is how often I find, like, I'm just doing something and I just find I got a hole in my jumper. Like, I just catch my clothes on everything, right? I just sounded like Lola from Big Mouth. My jumper. I love Lola. I've been watching Big Mouth. Anyway, good morning. So, cool. This has to be talked about. I don't know why I have to be the one to do it. But I think maybe it's just, this isn't because I feel like I'm a leader, right? It isn't because I feel like I have I'm not telling everyone how to fucking be feminists. I'm not appointing myself as anything. I'm just putting a human-centered design, a point of view on this, or an optics view, right, on what is called the gender critical movement. Now, I'm going to start with a story, right? Seizures said, the best feminists are trans women. Okay, Seizures. Seizures hasn't read the room, but stick around. Okay, because I think that what we can do is actually just calm the fuck down. Everyone, just calm the fuck down. I think Seizures is saying some pretty fucking terrible shit. But okay, that's his view, which I'm sure is a he. Now, I'm going to start with a story, and I'm not going to engage with Periscope fuckers. I also will warn Periscope people that I will quite proactively kill the Periscope stream and tell other people to go onto YouTube. Okay, so if you don't behave yourself, right? If you don't behave yourself, you'll be blocked and I will kill the stream. Now, I'm going to start with a story. Seizures is a very good example of how actually making my point for me, right? Now, the comments don't pop up on the stream, so that's a good thing. Now, I'm not going to tell you the year. I'm not going to tell you the party. I'm not going to tell you the people involved. So it's a bit of a shit story. But it's important to know that when you're in politics and you're working in politics in a political campaign, there are those that are in love with the law and love politics and enjoy the process, right? I would put myself in that camp, who believe in the structures, who try to do the right thing, try to find ways for people to live together when things are messy and complicated. And then there are the activists who, mean well, but are, single issue people. Then you've got people who attach themselves to these things in order to get away with behaviour that is otherwise socially unacceptable. That's the bit that I'm going to talk about. So I was working on a political campaign some time ago for a political party. And I was helping the candidate with their comms. They were doing all of the election stuff, right? I'd invested my time. I'd invested my skills. I was working for free, right? I was doing a lot of work for free. I was putting my name to that candidate. I was backing them publicly. Now, during that campaign, now if you're in WA, you'll probably be able to go fucking straight away what this was, but let's just move on. Some degree of anonymity. I'm trying to be discreet. Someone in the party went and dumped a whole bunch of chicken poo on their opponent's doorstep during a campaign. Now, that candidate supported that move and turned a blind eye to it and didn't call it out. And that's where I'm sort of going with this. It's very tricky to tell this story. It's a really shit story. I apologize, but I just wanted to frame it where, like how this stuff, misbehavior, like all of this sort of bullying, bad behavior, how negatively it impacts those that are advocates for the movement or who are out in their real names or who are trying to work towards solutions, right? I'm coming to I came to this I've been called gender critical largely against my will, okay? I would not describe myself that way. I'd say that I'm largely in the tribe, but I'd say that I'm a feminist. And I'm not a radical feminist. I'm not a liberal feminist. I'm just a thinker. Feminism is a broad school with lots of different ideas, right? Lots of different perspectives, lots of different arguments, right? Depending on the situation, right? You got to use the right tools for the right problem, right? And I don't believe that radical feminism solves the problem of trans. They're in conflict with each other. So I don't know if it's necessarily the right toolkit. Okay, now, it may be, right? I'm just saying generally speaking, okay? I've been called gender critical against my will, okay? I came to this stuff as a person who works in digital and politics and policy and interest in that sort of stuff, right? I've talked about all this stuff before. And I was just called a TERF because I asked questions. Then I became aware of what was going on, right, in terms of the silencing of radfem voices, Megan Murphy, all the bannings that happened there, seeing sort of the unfairness, the imbalance, right? It was not radical feminism that brought me to this place. Okay, I would say that I largely understand and agree with the radical feminist view of the world, but it's not the only fucking view. Okay, and it's also not why I joined. I put my name to this. I tried to help. I started talking about this issue because of the injustice that was happening around banning of people who ask questions. Okay, I want that clear. I came to this debate because I wanted to help because I saw something that was unfair, right? And because I don't like bullying. Now, some of the stuff, I've just had some stuff happen this last couple of weeks. And yesterday's video was sort of leading to this, which is that, where we've got a responsibility, right? Yes, some of this stuff is crazy and funny. Yes, it's absurd. Yes, it should be made fun of. Yes, it's, it's authoritarian, right? Yes, mocking is a good strategy. Bullying, not okay. Right? Now, I'm part of a few Facebook groups. Now, I feel bad because I think a lot of people think I'm singling out individual people. I'm not. It's actually just more a pattern of behavior that I just want people to reflect. I'm not telling people to stop. I'm not flouncing. I'm not lecturing. I'm not your fucking leader. I'm just giving you food for thought from my point of view, having worked in politics and as someone who has a fair amount of skin in the game in terms of the cost, the personal cost that I'm going through, right? My name being attached to this stuff, my reputation, all these things. And I think it bodes thinking, but you've got to have some thought for those, especially when you're anonymous, right? To think about those people that have their names out there and how you represent, right? It's like, this is my frustration. I have a friend who is a public figure who believes in gender, okay? Again, I'm not going to name names. I'm part of a Facebook group that is like a gender critical Facebook group, right? I saw 3 people that I know in that movement screenshot my friend's post and encourage a massive dog pile on her because she believes something different to them. Also, I agreed with her analysis. And this is what people are doing to people who largely agree with them and could actually be fucking allies, right? Is that whole, and this is the kind of behavior. So that's one thing that's happened in this last week that I don't want any part of. I don't want any part of it. Talked about this before. I've been on the receiving end of this shit. I'll probably be on the end of it again after this video, right? I'm on receiving end of it from fucking trans activists. I'm on the receiving end of it from fucking sexist pricks. I'm on the fucking receiving end of it from this fucking dumb cunt on fucking Periscope who's a fucking troll with no manners. I'm on the fucking Ian. Had to do that. Right? But I'm just saying, and I'm sympathetic to the cause. I've seen trans women, right, who are allies, fucking piled on and picked on, singled out, right? And I will fucking say it. When that Uncommon Ground article came out, that was not okay. That is not what I'm not. Okay, you can argue it. I agree with the perspective. Yes, I can agree with the argument. But the behavior is not okay. That is not what I joined this thing for. You're a man though. You're a man though. You're a man though. You're a man though. But you're a man. You're a man. But you're a man though. But you're a man. Did you know that they're men? They're men. But they're men though. But they're men though. You're a man though. But you're a man though. You're a man though. You're a man though. You're a man though. But you're a man though. You're a man though. Hey, but you're a man though. But you're a man though. Gender's not real. Gender's not real. Did you know gender's not real? Gender's not real. 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 Did you know that? That's how it looks when the red squares show up. You look fucking crazy. And then when someone like this, I had this fucking like interaction this morning. And I wrote the Twitter thread last night when I was like, I don't care about J.K. Rowling. I don't care. I don't care about Elliot Page. I don't care. And it's like, Elliot Page is a rich fucking celebrity who's like, whatever. I don't care. I care about the kids. I care about the toxicity of this debate, making it so that it's fucking look over here. You're a man though. You're a man though. You're a man though. Transphobia. You're a man though. You're a man though. And fucking kids are getting fucked over. Because everyone's off fucking, and I know that you think they're related, but they're not. Because if you're in the business of changing hearts and minds, you need to think about if you're actually changing hearts and minds. And this is my frustration, right? And this applies to the gender critical crew as much as trans activists, as much as anybody, fucking anybody, right? I said 100 times before, it's not the belief, it's the behavior, right? And I don't back. And I only supported this stuff because I saw the unfairness around the, censorship and freedom of expression and free exchange of ideas. I didn't realize that I was defending a mob of people who just cherry pick fucking anything and make it so that it looks like every trans person is a fucking pervert, or if they're a trans man, that they're fucking rejecting womanhood. It's like, it's not that fucking simple. And the optics of that. And yes, technically, again, yesterday's video, technically you may be correct. And you will derail into those technicalities for hours and hours and hours on end. But people still need fucking help. People still need services. People still need to live together. We still need to fucking do stuff. So when I say I don't care about toilets, this is what I fucking mean. I don't care about toilets. I understand why it's not just about the toilets. I'm saying when you fucking go off about the toilets, you look like a fucking evangelical nutter. Because of all the shit, right? And then when you fucking, and I sit there when my friend posts something that I actually agree with, because I speak her language and understand where she was coming from, only to have people from a group that I'm associated with fucking justify dogpiling on somebody who's fucking is also vulnerable. I have to sit and question, right, what I'm attached to and what I put my name to, right? And yes, there's a lot of very good people. There's a lot of very good thinkers, but it's all getting lost. It's getting lost in the fucking bullshit, right? Watching people fucking condescend to, Rain's here, right? Fucking wonderful person, right? In the middle, just wants to live their life, right? And it's just like, fuck me, right? People are not tokens that you can like cash in and use to justify bad behavior. And that's the thing that I think it's on my fucking tits. Because the difference between, and I'm reflecting on my own behavior as well, because there's actually also been a number of times, I talked about this in yesterday's video, where I've realized I was catastrophically fucking wrong because I jumped to fucking conclusions. The Banksia Hill transgender prison policy, inclusion prison policy, for example, applies to a youth detention centre that is already largely mixed sex anyway, right? That it's basically just respecting fucking someone who believes in gender identity, much like any other belief, and making accommodations so as not to humiliate them and comply with the fucking act. Same thing with the Lesh League. They're complying with the law, right? The cervical screenings thing that I talked about yesterday, right? It wasn't a trans woman on the fucking front cover of the woman's thing, right? It was saying if you're a trans woman that you might be confused about whether you have a cervix or not, here's some information. And you need services. Who the fuck is going to screen these things? Who's going to check? Right? It's like, fuck. Get your heads right. And Kirabel is being used for that purpose. Thank you for saying that, Laurie. That's my point. There is, and this is the thing, where trans activists have a fucking point. Okay? Gender criticals have a fucking point. And you're both terribly behaved. Okay? Trans activists, where they have a point, which is the fucking swarm of red squares that harass trans women. Then I get fucking derailed into what's the definition of harassment. We know what fucking harassment looks and feels like. Don't do it. Don't be like that. But what's hate? What's the definition of hate? It's defined, okay? It's been defined for years. It's called fighting words. And, you know, like also, like I said, technically it might not be. Technically, but are you a good person for conducting yourself in that manner? Fuck no. Am I making a joke? Yeah. Do some of them, do I think I'm punching up at the time and I mostly laugh at, it's okay. I'm not saying don't laugh at the ridiculousness. It's ridiculous. We get that, right? I'm one of the worst culprits. I make jokes all the time. But at the same time, right, they have a point when they say these are turf talking points. There's a point there, right? With J.K. Rowling, they have a point, right, about J.K. Rowling unwittingly or not, right, empowering a mob that's underneath her. Again, like I was saying yesterday, are you responsible for the audience that the people that you create and encourage? And I would say I can see that point of view. I'm not saying I agree. I'm saying I see it. I'm saying they've got a point. When you watch the behavior and when you see people on your own side who don't get called out on it, and I end up being the only one who fucking says anything and then ends up screeched at from all fucking sides because you're all being cunts, right? And it's basically like, you know, how do you expect to be invited into a room for a conversation or engaged in consultation or fucking, you know, taken seriously at all when you conduct yourself in this way? In policy, right, we generally only deal with reasonable stakeholders. And the problem is that because, and this is what I was saying about the whole Kira Bell point, right, and being lost and real fucking problems and real issues go unaddressed because people can't fucking play nice for 5 minutes and hear what the other side is saying. And then anyone who suggests that maybe you should listen to what people have to say end up fucking like, I'm going to cop all sorts of shit. Today, it's like all I said, I wrote a Twitter thing where I said, I don't care if someone has a fetish that doesn't affect anyone. Here we go. Things I care about, right? Kids being fucking old, you know, making permanent medical, that aspect of it, right? Violence, you know, some of the creep of language, the authoritarianism, right? Women who are impacted and left behind and accused of all sorts of things, of transphobia for grieving their husband, right? Or lover or ex or abusive ex, right? I care about the fact that there's an element of cover for narcissistic abuse and personality disorders, right? And again, we can have a separate conversation about personality disorders, right? But the unintended consequences of this law, which is largely well meant. It's not meant to be sinister, right? It's meant to make accommodations. There's a blind spot for people, okay? Because you're screaming at them. And people don't listen when people are screaming at them. Except now, because I'm screaming at you, but I'm just saying, right? Then you've got a swarm of anonymous people, right? You look like fucking bots. I've said this 100 times. You look like bots. I'm going to say that some of the people who have been banned from Twitter deserve to be fucking banned. Okay? Because they're harassing users. Right? I will talk about Jamila Jamil in the abstract. I don't think you've ever, I think once, do you know what? Once I replied to Jamila Jamil and I felt so bad. I twisted and yucky inside that I deleted it. That's why this is when you say, you know, look at how your interactions make you feel. And you know that what I'm saying, whether you've crossed the line or not. Unless you're not a very nice person or are using fucking serious issues, right? In between your, like, you know, in between fucking coffees and waiting for your fucking Candy Crush lives to recharge. I reckon there's a whole bunch of people that are here for the game and the war and the battle, not act and just completely fucking it up for everyone else. And that's what I wanted to talk about with these stunts. Right? That was the story with the election campaign, right? Fuck it. All right. It was 2005. It was a Greens campaign. There was controversy over chicken poo, right? Mouche chicken poo farm situation, environmentalists. Bunch of fucking environmentalists who I know are Green members, right? Turned around and just dumped a trailer load of fucking chicken poo on the MP's doorstep, right? The week before election day, right? Our candidate lost because of that fucking stunt. And the candidate still backed those activists. This is what I'm talking about because I attached my name to that, right? And this is what I'm trying to get through to people is that your behavior has impact that's outside of you. Right? And this fucking bullshit where I can turn around and say, look, I don't care about J.K. Rowling. I care about what I care about is the fact that she's getting the unfairness of it, the death threats and all of that stuff, right? But I don't care about Elliot Page, right? But I do care about all the people that fucking were harassing him. Sorry, it takes a minute. I am concerned about the people who can't give you who retcon and like can't even give you a fucking second to just reprogram your cogs in your brain and adjust and accidentally, you know, like with Caitlyn Jenner. When Caitlyn Jenner came out, that was a big thing with Kris Jenner where she endeared herself to me in that because she didn't handle it well and she was honest about the fact that she was grieving and she needed to go through that process. And everyone was giving her shit. Right? That she just doesn't suddenly accept. And it's like, no, she needs a fucking minute. It's her husband. Right? We're hardwired for patterns and this is just like fuck. So on both sides, can we just give people some fucking breathing room to think this problem through? Gender is not going away. Gender identity is not going away. We need solutions. Okay? You can challenge it all you fucking want. It's not going away. There's enough critical mass in the population for people to believe that it's true. It's fucking true. It's the aromatherapy, all right? You just got to fucking deal with people selling their fucking essential oils, okay? We know they don't work, but it's going to it's here, okay? Yeah. Jennifer raises a good point. So when the group does or says something you disagree with, what's the line between letting them know that a lot of people disagree and dogpiling? Well, the dogpiling is organised. So in the instance, I used the example of my friend and the group screenshotting my friend's post and sort of brigading, right? Again, I think it's also how you engage. It's how you conduct, how you disagree. I don't think it's necessarily about disagreement even, right? I think it's about the way you engage with people and how, like I said, you know that I was like, you're a man though. How it looks, like the J.K. Rowling army, how it looks, the optics of it as an outsider. Do you know how many times I'm in a business meeting or talking to somebody, because I know a lot of people that I don't talk about because it's not safe for me to do so. That's another problem. I want it to just be safe that I can just talk. Okay, freedom of association, again, a real problem, right? But people I talk to behind the scenes who are very high profile people, right? And they sit there and they go, you're kind of attached to a crazy, like, yeah, they do. I can see that they think that I'm like, I've been radicalized on some level, because I said this yesterday. If you're part of a tribe, you could only join a group where you can defend the extremes. And it's getting less and less the case with that, gender critical. First of all, I wouldn't say that I'm largely gender critical. I'm curious. The philosophy of gender, it's largely misunderstood, first of all. Second of all, like I'm open to the science. I'm open to new information, right? I think anybody who thinks that they have the firm answers about this, right, is largely, again, it's probably a conservative reflex. Okay, I'm not saying that you are conservative. I'm saying that not being open to the new science, if there is new science and when new science emerges, and there is some, not all, but some, right, that explains, and also, things like BPA and hormones and hormone imbalances and, and food and all those sorts of things, right? You're having a hormonal impact. Not saying men can become women. I'm saying it's fucking complicated. Right? Again, the fact that it's there's a fucking middle ground. Okay? And I think that the not all men guys have a point. When we start treating all men like they're fucking evil and vicious and fucking rapists. I happen to know some very nice ones. Okay? Now, I'm not saying I'm not mischaracterizing the radical feminist view, because it's often mischaracterized as man-hating and that stuff. But there's people who fucking hate men in there. Right? I have sons. I care about their fate. Right? I care about this stuff and their identity as men in the world. Okay? I care about my husband, who is a wonderful fucking person. Right? And the interesting thing about him is that he's largely ideology-free and apolitical. So there might be some sort of something in that, right? But hang on. So let me just engage some comments here. So Cyrene said, yeah, you can never abolish gender. People will always notice and categorize populational differences. Yeah, exactly, right? And best, I think, is if we can place less importance on adherence to the stereotypical norm. Exactly. And I think that that's what's happened here, is that, again, it's being run by crazy people. Where are all the sane people? Everyone's just gone fucking crazy. Crazy people shouldn't have a fucking opinion. And maybe it's just the fact that people are spending too much time online with crazy people being crazy. The internet's for crazy people. Meanwhile, fucking policy groups have relatively sane, relatively together people. Okay? There's been a push and an overreach. Yes, interests are always going to do that. But there has been some pushback, and we're coming out with some good fucking policy out the other side, which I've noticed is now being mischaracterized, right? Based on the most extreme potential scenario, such as Karen White or Jessica Yaniv, or those things. I firmly believe that we should be making sure that the law is clear, right? And again, a lot of this is largely untested. It's largely it's a blind spot until it happens. It's not willful ignorance for most people. It's just they're doing their best, right? Now, so it's not so much. So again, right? So good. So someone who actually was part of that. I don't condone it. I said I don't condone it, and it's just I don't want any part of that, right? I don't. Okay. I'm sorry. I just don't. If it's you may notice that the only things that I engage with are public places where I might be able to persuade people, like hospitals, right? Or like UN or places like that. But that's an individual who happened to be a friend of mine, a public figure who suffers depression, Ida, okay, who's in and out of mental care, It's not. I'm not telling you what you can and can't do. You can behave however you want. I'm saying that people who are fucking trying. I had to do. I don't think you realize how much smoothing over I've had to do. Right, because people can't behave themselves. That's all I'm saying. I'm not. This isn't an order. I don't care. It's fine. I'm not appointing myself as judge, jury, and executioner. There's too many people doing that. I'm giving you food for thought about your behavior and how it impacts those that you think you're helping. Right? The optics, that how it looks, how it's received. And this is, again, you know, criticism against Graham's behavior, right? You know, like, yeah, I'm sorry, Ida. Look, I know Ida's commenting on my private Facebook, so you can't see the chats. But hang on, let me see. So, right? Yeah. You did get a mental response because she's, yeah. Okay. No, you didn't make offensive comments. But what I'm saying, right? Okay. I think we've got to build on my. Okay. I'm not. I'm really not in the interest in trying to judge anybody, or I'm just trying to give food for thought and experience and knowledge and hope that people can, you know, learn from me. That's my only real goal, right? Let me explain. Let me take the time to explain this. I've talked about this when it comes to things like mansplaining or putting yourself in the shoes of the person who's receiving the messages. Okay, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that you fucked up. I'm saying how it looks. Okay, that's all I'm saying. It looked like I went on and I was like, what the fuck's going on? Okay. And yeah, the person that we're talking about can be difficult to engage anyway, right? But I happen to know this person, and Ida, I'm not, yeah. So I would need to clarify my point of view. I've talked about this quite a few times. Maybe this is why I deal with mansplainers the way that I do, right? It's called heuristic. Okay, it's called heuristics, right? They're patterns. And we're humans with patterns. We would largely deal with patterns, right? And that's when you have a heuristic, which is, let me explain this shit really badly to you, but it's basically like, okay, if this happens, then I'm going to assume that this whole situation is true and act accordingly. I used the example of the doctor in the emergency department yesterday, but it largely applies when being mansplained on Twitter, which is that not all of the time, right, does it escalate to abuse. But it happens enough of the time and always starts here, right, that you have to assume that every interaction is going to escalate into abuse. Okay. Now, that's think about how you deal with sort of men or you go, oh shit, here we go. I'm going to get the turf swarm. And I can see, again, I was observing this whole thing, right? And I came in and told you to pull your heads in, if you remember correctly, because I saw it. It's not what you said, okay? Again, technically, you did nothing wrong, okay? But when you start sort of a couple of you going for it, right, people start to anticipate that they're going to get the fucking dog pile, that it's coming, that they're being swarmed. And that was why when I saw the screenshot in the group and saw that you were actually advocating for that, that was when I went, nah, fuck it, because it wasn't organic. And that was my criticism of that thing, right? I'm not, it's complicated, right? It's not so much what you said or what even happened. It was more the fact that I don't condone that kind of behavior, and I'm attached to the group. People can look at mutual friends, they can look at things like that. And all I'm trying to say is that some of us are I'm too afraid. I've been active in the Labor Party for most of my fucking life, right? I'm so afraid to go to a branch meeting, right? And participate. Because we've got an election coming up. I honestly don't know, right, if my life's going to be destroyed, right? This is the thing. Yeah, right? Yeah, so this is, and heuristics. So you can have maladaptive patterns as well, right? Actually, Rain, if you could find a way I think you'd actually be a fucking hell of a psychologist. Seriously, you should really look into that because you're very smart. I don't know if like Canada has like free uni. You should fucking think about that because you're a very smart person. I think you could do a lot of good work. Anyway, so my point, I say this is where I come out swinging, but there's always a reason for it, and my frustration, and I've tried gently to suggest this to Graham a few times, and there's people who believe this too, which is that sometimes his stuff, as much as he's sort of trying his best, it's sometimes quite unhelpful, right? I want nothing more than for him to just fucking write comedy again. And yes, I know it's important, and I know that profile is important, but it's like at some point it becomes hard, and it makes it harder for everyone else. Now, I think that sanity is going to prevail because I do have faith in the institutions. I do have faith in the process. I do know that people can spot fucking when the pedos are trying to do shit. I think this one caught us sort of, again, because of the internet that I've talked about and people's blind spot for what's going on with fandoms, that they think they have a lot of, I think the adults in the room have no understanding of the fandoms. They also don't, I think people have assumed that people know that biological sex is real. They don't realize that they literally believe that it's a construct. This is the problem with the fandoms, and this is what's happened, is that people actually believe something. They're flat earthers and they don't realize it because it's a blind spot, right? Because if flat earthers attached themselves to the earth, to the environmental movement, right, it would take longer to get detected. That's what I'm saying. So by attaching itself to a legitimate cause that was based in material reality, it kind of blindsided. But I don't think it can't continue for long, right? I think so Ida said, what should we do when being called a fuck stick by a public figure? Who is the bully here? Well, in that instance, it's different. Well, I would argue that, first of all, just because someone has a page doesn't mean they're a public figure. Second of all, always remember there's a person behind it, okay? And again, honestly, what was said is immaterial, right? It was the fact that someone posted a screenshot and there was a pylon and I saw evidence of that pylon. That's brigading. I just do not back that one at all. I don't care if you said if you flooded her with fucking flowers and rainbows. It's just it's hostile. I just, there's a line I don't cross or advocate for. And I'm just saying, I had to then fucking smooth it over, right? And it's just, that's all I'm saying. You can take or leave it. You can sit and just justify the behavior all you like. I'm not here to, like I said, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not even fucking mad. I'm not going to unfriend you. I'm not going to punish in any way. I'm expressing my frustration. You're an adult. I'm sure you can hear what I'm saying when I'm expressing frustration, right, at people rationalizing bad behavior because they think they're in the right. That's my point with ideology, justifying bullies. I think there's a lot of people who see these very serious issues as a sport, right, who also just like mischaracterizing and misrepresenting what people are saying in order to pile on, which is what happened in that situation, because what she was actually saying was that fucking hell, that doesn't hurt you to use pronouns, but if your boss forces you to, then I've got an issue with it. And also it's mostly fucking corporate woke shit that's fucking, fucking it up for real trans people. I agree with that comment. I actually 100% agree. And then you started piling on with irrelevant, but they're a man though, there's no such thing. Sex is not, it's like, well, that was irrelevant. So yeah, she probably called you a fuckstick and you probably deserved it because you didn't even take the time to understand what she was actually saying. I don't think pronouns fucking ultimately do much harm, right? As long as it's not enforced and as long as there's nothing wrong with setting that social norm. Same with like the word woman. Social transition, I have absolutely no problem. right? There's some things that need to be figured out. Why I don't give a fuck about toilets is because I think we've got a design problem here. I also think that people are conflating and putting in way too much into one bucket of issues and building a fucking cult around it. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to say cult, right? Pedos, perverts, AGP, people taking the piss, right? Fucking 300 genders, Tumblr genders, fucking, that's the crazy shit, right? And then over here you've got, there's no such thing as gender, only fucking medical shit, all of this stuff, right? Men aren't women, fucking, in the middle you've got people fucking suffering who need help, okay? And I care about them. And the only reason that I even fucking engaged with this whole thing and spoke out, right? And I'm going to get to why I think people don't fucking speak out, right? Which is precisely why, because I sometimes fucking regret it, and not for the reasons that you'd think, because of this stuff, right? Because for some of us, our reputations fucking matter for a start. And, you know, and second of all, I think people are largely ungrateful, right, for the efforts of those that actually do put their names out there and take it for granted. And I think that's a gift that people should be fucking, you know, more grateful for, because it's really fucking hard, right? Especially when you're friends with lots of different people and you're like a football in between them. And I can only imagine that it would be 10 times worse being a trans woman who's fucking like, you know, used as a football between two sides, right? And I'm sure Rain can talk about that. You know, like being fucking, and Fionn and those people being fucking just used and dropped and used and dropped and used and dropped and used and dropped. It's like, fuck me. There's a person there. Right? We're just going to fucking play Fallout 76, Rain. It got better. Anyway, I'm just saying, right? I don't think, and when you talk about, okay, here we go. I'm just going to expand on this thought about who's the bully. Well, the answer is all of you. And the answer is that's whataboutism. And also, that's how this escalates. Why can't you just choose to not be a bully? That's the thing that you do have control over, right? The thing I have control over is making sure that I'm punching up when I joke as much as possible, right? And for those who, you know, when I make the fucking gender jokes and pet trans jokes, I believe I'm punching up because that's the establishment, right? That's where the confusion lies, but I'm still punching upwards, right? Or having a word play or laughing at the ridiculousness. But I do like conduct myself largely without harassment, right? And yes, legal definition of harassment. People know when they're harassing someone, generally, okay? I'm saying that you can only control your own behavior. You can't control the behavior of others. And this is why the kind of community that I want to build is one that understands that, right? Is personal responsibility for, like, you know, taking it upon ourselves to just not participate in the war. Right? And that I would argue that also is largely what puts you on the reason on the left, being anti-war, being pacifist, right? All of those sorts of things. So I think that that's actually you know, I believe in non-violent resistance, civil disobedience, all of those sorts of things. I do not believe in this stuff, right? And you might say it's just a tweet, but it's not. Psychological warfare, okay? Might be small, but, you know, I just don't do that, okay? And the problem is that then people like me get attached to this stuff and have to defend it, and I do. This is the first time I've really gone after the fucking gender critical mob in years, right, about their behaviour, because I've realised that everyone's punching the rad femmes, right? And but I feel the need to speak out, right? So there was an Uncommon Ground Media article that basically named individual trans people as basically calling them grifters, basically saying that, you know, we need to stop worshipping trans people, blah, blah, blah. I did a big thread on this at the time. And a bunch of people fucking screamed at me about how I was a disappointment. Here we go. I was basically a disappointment and all this sort of stuff, right? The usual shit, right? And I just was like, well, no, there is an argument, a radical feminist argument, right, for allowing trans women in as allies into our fight. First of all, there's an argument for it, right, which is that radical feminism is about root causes, and I don't believe that the root cause of this whole fucking thing is the trans people who are in the debate, right? I believe that the root cause is actually the stuff that I've been talking about, the behaviour of trans activists, right? And so I think that we should be eternally grateful for any trans person who attaches themselves to our movement, because that they cop it from all angles. We owe them a debt. And I will argue that. Okay? That's the thing. There is no one feminism. There's no one radical feminism. It's called an opinion and thinking things through. And that's the difference between fucking dogma and ideology. Most people haven't even read the fucking ideology and even the basic theory, right? And just building on ideas. These are all just ideas and frameworks and perspectives, okay? The reality is that we're all just going to try and sit and live together. And people are crazy, people are weird, people fucking, do what they do. But, I think that people really need to reflect on, first of all, their relationship with social media and addiction, right? Second of all, not seeing these very serious issues as a sport, right? And also, so Laurie said, right? Laurie said, people forget there are victims who are hurting and their behaviour impacts on the ability to... Exactly. There's that, right? So you're a man though, 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 they're a man though, they're a man though, they're a man though. Single sex spaces, perverts, you're a man though, you're a man though. Trans widows put their hand up and say, I need help. I don't know where to turn. And they call the TERF and they join the TERFs and their problems go unaddressed. Young kids, right? Think they're trans. And because it's so polarized, they don't want to be a TERF, right? So they go along with it. We need to just remember that we are the loving arms of mothers, okay, supposedly. The loving arms of acceptance. That's what this is about, self-acceptance. The gender critical view is you are fine just the way you are. Why can't we extend that to everybody? Or are they fine just the way they are so long as they agree with us? Right? That's the thing that upsets me, is that you either live by your principles or you don't. And I don't think that there's any excuse for bad behaviour. I don't. And I can see why we don't, I can see why it's perceived the way that it is. And we need to have that conversation about perception. Now, do you think that mobbing Catherine Ryan and fucking celebrities to speak out and go full TERF is really fucking productive? No, because I wouldn't be surprised. No one wants to touch this fucking thing. Right? We need to make it so that people can feel like they can speak freely, regardless of what it is, and work through it. Not, are you agreeing with me or disagreeing with me 100%? If not, I'm going to fucking berate you. And if I don't berate you, I'm just going to make your mentions so fucking unbearable that the original point gets lost. Right? I made it clear that the things I care about are the impacts, right? Of fucking, again, the fetish stuff, separate issue from trans kids. Trans women, separate issue from fucking Jessica Yaniv, okay? Self-ID is its own separate fucking issue. We need to decouple these things and slice them into small chunks, right? And fucking address each issue as it stands that's in front of us, right? If you believe that people are fine just the way they are, then you need to accept all of them, including when they're wrong. Okay? And I know that's not what you mean, but I'm just saying, if you're preaching self-acceptance, you need to live self-acceptance and live that acceptance in others and show it and model that behavior. Kids don't learn from fucking being told things. They learn from being modeled, right? From what you do. And I don't want a whole generation of people who grow up thinking that nothing is real and that like if someone disagrees with you, that it's okay, that you can that they're fair game. And again, there's shit posting is shit posting. We're going to have a laugh. It coming from me, I think it's actually a nice soft blow because I hope that my intentions come through. Which is that because I'm a smart ass too and I find this stuff funny and ridiculous and I do share some of the stuff, right? But what do you get out of, making fun of fetishes, right? Especially when a large part of these fetishes you don't understand is getting the attention or shocking people or getting, they get off on that. So what are you doing? You're feeding it. That's my point. Jessica Yaniv gets off on this stuff. This is where I think understanding what you're actually dealing with and you're actually sort of feeding the problem, right? And that's where, like autogynephilia, we need to be able to talk about that, right? We need to be able to talk about pedophilia and the link between the two with level heads. But you can't sit there mentioning toilets and then scream about all the pedophiles. You look crazy when you do that. You look crazy. Okay? Yes, it's a problem. But again, can we just find some can we be the ones that reach across the table and Jesus fucking Christ. I don't get what people get out of this. Right? Remember, when you're talking about fetishes, you're talking about voyeurs, you're talking about flashers, you're talking about people who, narcissists. So, yeah, let's dedicate a group to them. Okay? Is that the best use of our time? Right? That's all I'm saying. I'm saying that, you do need a pressure valve. You do think it's funny. I do think we do have to have conversations, but I think we also need to have some parameters around what we do because it makes people like me look it just makes it worse. Just makes it worse. Right? And there's a reason why we're not invited on things. Right? Because of the swarm that's underneath us. Right? It's the same thing that I was saying about Gad Sad's crew yesterday. Right? I could probably have a conversation with him, but his tribe, no, I don't want that. So I wouldn't invite that shit on my channel. It's the same thing, right? This is what I'm talking about is, it's not a sport. It's not a game, right? If you want to play fucking games, go and play an actual game. Don't play with things that are actually very serious. That's all I'm saying, right? No, we can't. And that's the thing. Get off, honestly, if I wasn't audience building, right, or trying to do this type of thing, I wouldn't be on Twitter. I wouldn't bother. It's a waste of fucking time. If I was actually in government and policy, I wouldn't bother. It's a waste of fucking time. It's only crazy people and media people who have to be on there. And that's why you see all the blue checks and people that have to be on there because they got to be. But other than that, I think it's mostly just fucking nut jobs like me. And there's nothing wrong with being funny, right? Nothing wrong with a joke, right? But try to punch up then too. But I don't even care. See, the thing is, I'm also the kind of person who sympathizes with everybody, even if they do bad things, right? In the case of Jessica Yaniv,
there was a point where I was like, that person is tremendously unwell and unstable, and I feel very sad that that's how he turned out, or she turned out, or they turned out, right? I feel empathy for people, right? Because everyone, again, maybe it's just my background and training, but, you know, a lot of people who grow up to be psychopaths, for example, you know, were abused as kids. Everyone was a child once. And again, yes, I know you've got to have, you know, take responsibility for yourself and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, people have, we're all the sum of our, like, world and resort. Like, I always just try to think of people as kids, right? Some of them were killing animals, but a lot of them, you know, like if you, like with Barbie Kardashian, right? That story is horrific, right? What happened to Jessica Yinni's dad, I wonder? Where's Jessica's dad, right? That's a question. And that's maybe because I just came out of social work and saw kids that were not given a chance. And I just sort of, I again, root causes, right? Yeah. And yeah. So Rain said she prefers a side account with 4 followers where I just tweet music vids. Yeah. I don't have answers for this, but I'm not going to be putting my name. I will openly fucking tell people off now. I'm not tolerating it. And this is just actually, like, I actually sat there and I went, this is actually a much more tame version of what I was going to say yesterday. I'm glad that I almost jumped back on to a stream yesterday, right? To fully denounce, right? All of it. I got to that point where I was like, I was wrong repeatedly. I keep being fed hyperbolic wrong information. And yes, and that's my fault because I didn't read as far, right? And then I saw the fucking bad behavior, and then I've seen, you know, everyone using Kira as a fucking tool, right? Rather than just fucking making sure she's okay, right? Everyone who's just, you know, and I it's just like, fuck this shit. If I wasn't trying to write a book about this thing, I would just rage quit the whole fucking thing, you know? And it's like and also some of us have fucking lives. I work 12 hours a day, right? I took a break now, but I'm going back to work I worked for 2 hours this morning, and then I took a break to stream, and then I work for another 10 hours. I work around the clock. Okay. And then I get people fucking asking me to do all sorts of shit for feminism. It's like, I'm not a full-time, first of all, I'm not an activist, because I think activists are the fucking people who fuck everything up for most people, right? Other than, you know, changing hearts and minds and that sort of stuff, of course. But the mobbing stuff and those people, I don't, it's not in my wiring. I'm a hearts and minds person and persuasion. That's why I thought, okay, well, I have a relative level of influence in certain spaces and certain insights. I will lend my voice to this movement, right? And then it's just a fucking purity spiral, and I'm left on my own, right, to fend for myself, basically, other than the handful of people that are watching stuff, right? But I'm fending for myself. I've basically killed my fucking business in order to do this thing and research it. Again, I was tired of it anyway, but I'm just saying, right? I've lost my child who has misunderstood, right, how I feel about things. I don't think people understand that there is actually a personal cost for a lot of people who are out with their full names. We're not sitting in there like, you know, trolling. That cloak of anonymity needs to be looked at, and if you're hiding behind that, then, you know, this is another thing why I won't write to MPs in other states, because I think that circumvents the intention of the process, right? Which is, I'm a constituent. I want to write to my MP. If it comes to Western Australia, then I will do everything I can, right, to make sure that it's thought of there. But it's like, people need to have some respect for the institutions and the process. And a lot of this gender stuff is just that there's no real process in place yet because something caught us sort of, in a blind spot. Right? And then we sort of put a flashlight on it. There's a flashlight on it. Right? And the flashlight is fucking yelling at everybody. So the one opportunity we get to expose them to the critiques, everyone's fucking going nuts. I've seen this where it's like, I've seen it so many times with like, especially blue checks, right? And I know quite a few of them. And I know quite a few of them who are sympathetic to the cause, but would never fucking say a word. Because all the fucking Karen White, the women are human shit, everything, all of it fucking just comes out. And they go, well, that's crazy. Glenn Greenwald was correct. Sort of. He was wrong about writing everybody off, but he was right when he said the J.K. Rowling fan club on Twitter is fucking crazy. And he was correct. He's right on that. The optics of it. That's most people's reaction when they see this. Right? Sorry, Jennifer. I probably wasn't. Actually, Jennifer said, so can I explain what sort of behavior I consider using Kira versus talking about her story? I probably should retract that. Actually, it probably wasn't the right thing to say because it warrants thinking. Again, it's just more like using the Kira Bell case, right, to talk about AGP over here, right? So in light of the Kira Bell case, right, yes, it's relevant to the conversion therapy bill, whatever, in ruling. Children can't consent. There's a gap here because, clinicians might want, again, affirmative care is not what, again, that's been mischaracterized too. I don't think most practitioners would like just say, yep, you're trans, give injections now. I don't think that would happen, right? I just don't think it would happen, right? It can happen, right? And people who see money in it can do that. Anyway, I'm saying that we can't keep conflating these two things. So people are conflating Elliot Page with Kira, or conflating. Like, this is where you head into conspiracy theory town when you start linking everything together when it's not necessarily the same argument. It's basically just it's a straw man and a derailment. So the thing about the Kira Bell case that was significant was that it focused on very important clarifications around the law and fact. Okay. I'm not saying you shouldn't use her name. I'm saying that it should be applied it's just like and like, apples and oranges, right? I don't think using Kira to talk about all of the AGP shit or all the other stuff is necessarily going to help. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, I'm not saying people are maliciously doing it, right? I'm saying that, on both sides. So trans activists are demonizing this young woman to make it sound like she's pushing for conversion therapy, which is not the case, right? That's all I'm saying. I do misspeak sometimes. So if I did say something that was wrong, I'll think it through. I'll look it back and then I'll correct it if I need to. But I'm just saying, right, people are just conflating too many things all at once, right? Like abusers are abusers, pedos are pedos, fucking, pervs are pervs. Some of that shit is private. As long as they keep it private, it's none of my business. You want to change into lady bits for fucking to get off? I don't care. It's fine, right? If you don't hurt anybody, right? Then again, it's your behavior. That's your conduct that I'm concerned with. And the law cannot control for all scenarios. It can be made clearer, right? And unfortunately, the courts are going to be the place where this is battled out. It's just that's just how the law works, right? Okay, can you give me an example? Yeah. What is that, Laurie? It's just something I've observed where now, because it's like this area was a ruling in one country, suddenly all of the gender critical arguments are correct now. There's like this weird thing. It's like, well, no, that was always correct. That was always the concern, and that was the sanity, right? I mean, seeing the Observer talk about it was fucking amazing. That was great, right? And I will speak up about those who didn't speak, right? I will make sure that those who, knew about this and didn't say anything, right? Whatever, I'll hold them to account. That's what I'm again, first of all, riffing. Second of all, frustrated. Third of all, I'm not a leader, right? I'm not telling anyone what they can and can't do. I'm just expressing my frustration, putting it out there, seeing if others feel the same way. We're building, not destroying, right? And So Jennifer, so using it to talk about anything other than how using, and it's also just also about consent. Like, children can't consent. So yes, it does have a link to, trying to lower the age of consent. It's like, it's pretty clear that it's established in law that children under the age of 16 can't consent, because what it did is actually reiterate that law too, right? That's going to be the knock-on effect around other things, but it's also around puberty blockers specifically because they're complicated, right? But seeing people just misuse the case, misread the case, right? It is one case and it's going to have implications, but those implications are largely unknown, right? It's not here in Australia. We've got our own fight, right? And then we've got state by state legislation. Also, like, it's like with the conversion therapy bill. It's like, well, if you're opposing that bill, but can we get amendments? Can we get clarity, right? I don't know the optics of opposing a conversion therapy bill. And I know that's by design, but I'm just saying, like, it'd be better off going in and saying, okay, there's a unintended consequence here, like what I did. I screenshotted that psycho who was saying that Kira, by saying that they need mental health services, was advocating for conversion therapy, right? And I sent that to them and I said, is this what you mean when you say conversion therapy? Because if so, right, as a future psychologist, because I get to do that now, right, or any parent psychologist could potentially be accused of, or who advocates for their kid to get mental health care, right, before they like transition, could actually be caught up in this bill, right? Have you accounted for the crazies in this thing, right? Does it stand up to that? That's how you approach legislation and law. You don't necessarily throw out the whole fucking thing. Because I would argue that a conversion therapy law is needed. You just need to like decouple like sexuality and gender identity, and that gender identity is complicated and it should be up to the clinician and with their patient and, you know, protect them legally, right, from that sort of thing. So that's all I'm saying. And then so conflating, anyway, right? Yeah, the judgment was also specific because it cites that children aren't just consenting to puberty blockers, but are extremely likely to go on to further treatment. Exactly, right? So, I mean, our kids can just go on the pill, right, without our consent. We've had that happen here. They can just go and get like whatever and all these things and get their own Medicare card from the age of, I think, is it 14, 15? They can just get their own Medicare card that we don't need to, they could have an abortion and we not know, right? And I think that the intention of that law was good. I'm seeing it being open for abuse because, you know, teenagers are going to be fucking teenagers. Is the intent of the law good? The spirit of the law good? Yeah. Right? Because, you know, anything that helps teens get through and prevents them sort of doing anything that sort of hurts them for the rest of their lives is a good thing. So I would argue that the pill argument, for example, right, and the puberty blockers argument are sort of two sides of the same coin, which is that we are trying to stop children from doing irreparable damage to their future selves. And I would say that having a baby at 14 is one of those as well, right? So, I think every 14-year-old should be on fucking birth control, if possible, because I've just seen how hard it is for young mums, and especially working in child protection. Nah, it's just not good for the kid unless they're like a rich kid or whatever. But even then, they're too young, right? So here we go. So Freaky Retster said, so GC using Kira for why puberty blockers are bad. The left saying she was 16 and forgetting the judgment is about competency of children. Yes. So she was impacted by poor medical. Yeah, exactly. So they're mischaracterizing it, right? And that's what I'm saying is my frustration. Can we just commit to being the people that think and dig deep and like get the facts before reacting, right? Like that, I've been had egg on my face a lot recently. Like when you go through, obviously I've talked about this like YouTube thing, but when you go through that sort of, you get thrust into the culture wars, it's very tempting to start creating sort of outrage content, reacting to fucking everything. And then you slowly realize that you're getting one point of view. It happens, right? The thread was pulled for me on sort of wokeism, right, so to speak. I'm calling it my definition of wokeism, right? The thread was pulled there, and on sort of trans activism versus feminism and the turf wars and that stuff. But a thread was pulled back on the other side, right, for me on how I've been sort of jumping to conclusions a lot based on people I thought were telling the truth when they're actually overreacting, right? Look at the transgender prisons thing. In WA, it's Banksia Hill. It's fine. There's no problem. All right. I see what they meant. Okay. It's just, anyway. And it's just, maybe just leading by example. But I swear to God, yesterday I was going to just delete, because I also got, and it's not any one individual person. It's just a number of different things that happened all at once, right? But I was invited to a fetish fucking mocking shit posting group on Facebook, and I went, why do people think that I want that? I don't. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that was all. And it was just kind of just a number of different things. And also because I'm starting to develop my work, I've diagnosed the problem. I didn't realize, like I did a lot of work, and having diagnosed it as coming out of fandoms with young people who have been let down and just don't know, it makes me a lot more empathetic to them, which is that they don't know. And I'm trying to figure out ways to pull their thread. I think there's a reason why I always end up holes in my fucking shirts and shit, because all of these threads being pulled. Right? So Rain said there's a huge difference between male to female and female to male. Yes. And I've been shouting that from the rooftops. They're completely, but even then you've got male to female, right? Then you've got subcategories of that. So you've got fucking your AGPs, right? You've got your homosexual transsexuals. You've got sort of, people who are, fucking the trans umbrella is fucking complicated in its own right. Right. Then you've got like, female to male, but you've got like, there's true trans people there too. Right. There's lots of different reasons. Right. There's autism. There's fucking being gay. There's so many fucking things. It's complex. Right. And it's just like the fact that people are just lumping all of this into like just one bucket. It's like, well, no, can't I just deal with everything as it stands in front of me like a judge would, like the facts in front of me on a fact? Maybe I should just be the fucking culture wars Judge Judy, where you put the fucking case in front of me and I fucking declare whether it's fucking reasonable or not. Maybe I should do that. That'd be funny. We should set up a committee. The Culture Wars Committee. Right. Oh, thanks. So Jennifer said, I really liked your video on the Western Australia prison thing. I learned a lot about policy and conflicting rights. Yeah, the thing that I fucked that video up because I glossed over the fact that it's actually a juvenile detention centre, first of all. So it's only 10 to 17-year-olds, right? Which means that, and also like statistically, right? It's like a lot of average, like very vulnerable kids. They're vulnerable kids. So, you know, pushing them, like it's kind of more, it's more complex when it's sort of when it's adolescence, especially in the criminal justice system, because they're trying to sort of steer them right, you know, steer them in the right direction, sort of in terms of, so, you know, lots of things. Okay. Gender identity is sort of very secondary to that, but a lot of it is making sure that the kid feels good, the kid feels safe, the kid can be rehabilitated. A lot of these kids who end up in those places are in the most heinous, that a revolving door of fucking foster care and justice and, you know, like back to their fucking drug addicted parents. And then, you know, they're sort of shuffled around from family to family member to family member. They have no real stability. Right. So a big part of the youth criminal justice system is making sure that those kids feel secure, probably for the first time in their fucking lives, right, where you can actually get to them. So, you know, I think letting them believe they're non-binary, I think that's kind of secondary. So, and also Banksia Hill is it's mixed, they're separate, right? They're separate, but there's still a largely mixed sex facility. So there are some shared facilities and those sorts of things from what I understand. But that was, I think again, that's one of those things where when you're streaming and you watch it back and you go, fuck, that was actually, I really should have emphasized that a lot more. But, you know, yeah, I think that it's really, what I think we need to do is empower people not to use ideology, but to use I've said this before, the right framework for the problem that we've got at hand. I don't know whether arguing about the abolition of gender, like I've said, I don't know if it's a productive, I think it's a good conversation, right? But I don't know if it's a productive one. Again, it becomes something like atheists versus Christians or Christians versus, you're not going to get anywhere, right? Now, you can persuade people to start thinking about it differently, right? What we can talk about is the role that the state plays in these things, especially when there's a conflict between the two. I would argue that gender identity is not equal status in law. That has to be, I think it's not an immutable characteristic in the strictest sense. I think that's where the mistake is. I think that what we need to do is, you know, we have to make sure that we have some clear stuff around conflict in rights, right? But these are conversations that need to be had, and they're not being had well. And unfortunately, because both sides actually, you know, even the most craziest of sides have a good point to make. You know, good ideas come from all sorts of fucking places. And the problem is that there are some good ideas that come out of fucking like the crazy TRAs, and there's some ideas that come out of the like crazy, you know, aggressive like rad femmes, right? And can we just put all those things into a fucking bucket and be creative? And that's why when I say I don't care about toilets, it's not that I don't care about that issue of toilets and the history and the fucking all that shit. Thank you. I know. What I don't care, I think toilets, we have a design problem, and I see it as an opportunity for us to get creative. And maybe that's just me. Again, builders versus destroyers. I'm just somebody who goes, wow, well, that seems like a really cool engineering problem to ensure that's just how I'm wired. How can we innovate, right? How can we innovate in policy? Right? Yes. Rain said all streaming should come with a heat of the moment clause. Absolutely. And that's why I won't do clips. Right? It stands as it is, and if I regret something, I will correct the record later. And people just need to assume that if I was wrong, or trust me to realize that I was wrong, right? Or regret, like I removed the Little Red Riding Hood video. I thought it was punching down. I thought it was funny, but the execution wasn't good and it just was mean. There's things like that, right? Especially when I was new at YouTube. Sorry, after a period of time, I started to dehydrate. Dexamphetamine does that to my fucking face. But, you know, especially when you're new to YouTube and you're learning all these things, it's so easy to misspeak. I still malaprop all the time. I'll just say a different word. Like the other day when I said, like, what was it? Because an email popped up and I was going to say a word, but then it was like palate cleanser. And I just like, it just popped into, I was like, yeah, malaprops are just a thing with me. But I think that's why I think take out of context clips are just, I'm better off just streaming it and going, this is me. I'll build on it. If I'm wrong, then I'll correct it. Like, that's why I think a lot of my old content does need to stay, because I think that a lot of people, I need to show that it's not just a pathway to radicalization. If you're if you're willing to sort of dive, you can go through that process and you can come out the other side better. And I have come out the other side better. Whether the radfems think so or not, I don't know. I'm going to fucking get a shit pile, I'm sure. But, right, I'm just saying, like, I feel like I'm a better person now, right, from all of this stuff. I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm not saying I'm holier than thou. I'm not saying I'm saying I'm incrementally better for having gone through this, right? But I also went through it, and I continue to go through it, and I continue to have my name attached to shit that I don't fucking support. And I just wanted to make sure that there was something on record that showed that I wasn't turning a blind eye to this. I don't like the bad behavior. I do think that people's fetishes and kinks are private unless they affect anyone else, right? I think that it's fucking funny if a dude like goes out and wants to go and dress out as a lady and has a slight humiliation fetish and all that stuff. No, fucking, that's funny. It's entertaining. That's what makes life interesting. If he tries to use that to hurt other people, then whatever. But I'm not offended with my eyes. Maybe, and that's the thing, I think a lot of people need to just harden the fuck up at seeing stuff they don't like in general, right? Like, it doesn't bother me if a dude wants to put on a fucking wig and lipstick and a dress. It's fucking entertaining and interesting, right? I'm going to look. Like I said with the public breastfeeding, I'm going to look because it's fucking different and interesting, right? You go, yeah, that's cool. Brave lady. Awesome. You do. That's how I view things. And again, you're welcome to have a different view. It's just, I think people just need to fucking, I think I'm just so libertarian. It's like, I just want to be left the fuck alone, and I want to say what I want, and I want everyone to be able to be left the fuck alone and say what they want. And and I don't mean that in terms of the state. I'm saying everyone should be free to live their life, this short fucking life, the way that they want. And I can just navigate through shit. Because I loved living in Newtown. I didn't live in Newtown. Loved going to Newtown, and I lived in Leederville here, which is kind of like the Perth's version of like Newtown in Sydney. And it's like, there's fucking crazy people. Like, you go down Newtown Street and because I went to buy a guitar at the music shop there, and you're just walking. I was walking down the street with a guitar that I'd bought. It didn't come with a case, so I was just walking down the street holding it, and I was paranoid because I was like, oh, people are going to think I'm crazy. Next minute, I see a fucking dude with like pink hair wearing a Pokemon onesie in daylight, carrying his fucking groceries, and I'm like, that was cool. That's interesting, right? See, while you've got interesting, crazy people out there, no one's paying attention to me. And that's good because I've got a bullseye on my fucking head, right? I'm just saying, fucking calm down. I think that, again, what other people do, so long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, right? Again, it's not a workable thing, but I would say that a man who goes into a female toilet, if there is nobody else in there, right, there's no harm done. Okay, that's what I'm saying. It's just, it doesn't hurt anybody else. Again, I'm not saying that that's anything that's workable. I'm just saying, what's it to you, right? What's it to you if someone wears makeup and dresses and calls himself fucking, moon gender? Who cares, right? I don't want the state making me do it, and I don't want to have to, and I'm sure most people agree with us on that, but I'm just saying, there's things we got to let go. And also, crazy's going to crazy. We can't let crazy people dictate how we're going to react, because crazy people make us all fucking we're all lizard braining. We're worried about Karen White, but not fucking the 95% of fucking people who, like Rain said, stealth transsexuals who fucking have just gone on with their day. And yes, you can say, well, you're a man, and fucking hell, who cares? As long as they don't hurt anybody. That's another argument that trans activists use that I think is valid, which is I do think there is some value in decoupling trans status, right, from the crime, right? I can see that point of view, right, which is that treating crimes as crimes, treating perversion as perversion. The fact that they turn up in there and make people uncomfortable, well, I'm not saying that it's, again, that's different, but I'm just saying these are problems that we can work through, right? It's not, yeah. Anyway, I'm sure who else have I told any fucking MAGAs to fuck off in this stream? Who else can I fuck off? Christians can fuck off as well. None of your fucking business what people do in their, I don't know. Just, who else can I offend? Fucking Star Trek. I hate Star Trek. I also hate Star Wars. And K-pop can go fucking die in a fire. There we go. Yeah, and I feel, okay, so Laurie said, I don't want people using me, by the way, to make a point. That's one of my fears. Yeah. And that's why, you know the interview thing? I don't like doing it because I do feel like I'm doing that. I do feel like that. I feel like the conversation can be had, but I think it can be had off YouTube. Or I don't know. But I also don't like the idea of sort of bleeding all your trauma out all over everyone as well. Like it's just, and sorry, not you, Laurie, I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying gaming elitists. Yep, they can fuck off too. But you know, like this idea that I have to sort of disclose things that are private. Like I've had quite horrific things happen to me in my life, and the fact that I have to disclose them in order to have an opinion, it's like, well, no, we can, if we elevate the conversation, it becomes unnecessary, right? It becomes unnecessary, right? And I think that if people just start listening to the issues, people shouldn't need to bleed and use emotional stuff in order to persuade. If people actually just listen to each other, we wouldn't need. I think that's a part of the reason why wokeism is so emotionally manipulative and that sort of standpoint theory stuff is largely because the system doesn't listen. And if we could actually make it so that it doesn't listen to women, doesn't listen to people of color, and the only way we can be heard is with fucking emotional stories. And I feel like there is something, again, when we're looking at root cause, the problem is that we are expected to be robots when we're not. We're expected to not. And you know, capitalism and patriarchy and all those things leave a lot of people behind. And a lot of those people don't have a voice. And then when they do get upset, right, they're told to calm down. So it's no surprise that there's a whole philosophy built around listening to people's anecdotes and stories, right? This is something that I saw this. It was actually, do you know, one of the most powerful and impactful things that I've ever been through was when I was a child protection worker, we did we did a Indigenous stories workshop. So we had like a full day training workshop, and half of it was like story exchange, but it was about from people who grew up in group homes as a result of the stolen generation. And a story that really hit me, I'm going to share it. I don't know if it's appropriate. Am I allowed to share this? If I wasn't supposed to share this kind of story, I apologize. I don't know. I wasn't meant to be appropriate, but this is like, I'm trying to be empathetic, right? But it fucking hit me. Right? It really hit me like a ton of bricks. And this is why I've always sort of fought for kids and remembered that people are kids. We're all kids inside, right? And so it was a story about being in a group home, and they had chores, right? And they were required to clean the floorboards. It actually makes me very fucking teary thinking about this story, right? And how as a kid, I think 7-year-old, it was their job to sort of hand scrub the floorboards. And they were like relatively happy in the group home. Like my grandma grew up in a convent, like Magdalene laundry situation too. So I understand this kind of story where her stories are all positive despite all of the sort of shit around her, right? That's largely what juvenile detention is to try and fucking create some stability for the kid in heinous circumstances. So these group homes try to do the same thing. But their job was to scrub the floors, right? And because eventually they closed those group homes and they went back, right, as an adult to sort of go through and they really was just super, super upset at going back to this group home because the floors were dirty. And obviously as an adult, they grew up and learned sort of what had happened. They'd been taken away from their parents and all that sort of stuff. But at the age of 7, cleaning those floorboards, it was a source of pride and stability for that kid, right? So to go back with all that gravity and all that sort of adult shit, all that serious shit, right? To go back and see that the floors were dirty, it kind of made it feel like that was something that they didn't matter. Right. It was fucking, I told it really badly, but you can see how storytelling has an impact. Right. But like I'm saying is that, people shouldn't have to bleed for us to say taking children away is bad. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is where it's like, well, we need to be able to have that conversation up front where we don't need to use the fucking temper tantrums and all that sort of stuff, right? And again, I'm acknowledging that the histrionics works sometimes, right? But I think that it's actually it's not good for the victims of abuse to be reliving and retelling their abuse in order to be heard. They should just be heard, right? Without having to declare. And that's been part of my fight, which is that I don't talk about my shit. I don't talk about my shit, right? I'm not going to. I'm going to be like listened to on my merits and not have to use my stories, and I think that's something I think the woke movement completely ignores, is that it's actually not helpful to the victims. You think it's one of those unintended things where you think you're helping, but you're actually re-traumatizing every time someone has to talk about it. It's not because it makes other people uncomfortable. It's because it's you basically teach people that the only way that they're going to be heard or understood or get policy passed is by, trotting out a kid with a sad story, right? I would argue that Kira Bell should not have gone to court, right? I'm not saying should not have gone. I'm saying it should have been a not have to go to court. When I say water is wet, children can't consent, it should have been a thing that grown-ass adults, right? You get what I'm saying? I'm sorry. See what I'm saying here, which is that we need to start dealing with problems and anticipating them earlier based on principles and not destroying people's lives because technically it's legal. Technically I get away with it. Let's see if they sue me. If they sue me, then I'll admit that I did stuff wrong if the court makes me. It's like, well, no, are you a good person or are you not? That's all. That's the theme. I've gone too long. I'm just saying, like, I don't like, I just, I've faded. Got any questions? Right. So Laurie said, right, the people who should be allowed to rant should be the people with direct lived experience, not the allies. They don't speak from a place of knowledge. I agree. And I think that this is where this allyship stuff has sort of gone wrong, right? Which is that it's become a business. This is where I talked about this yesterday, about people who cynically use these issues for their own personal gain, right? I think that the word ally needs to be fucking retired. I think it's redundant. If everyone is trying to be a decent person, ally is redundant. Ally just means that you're like on a team, right? I think the word ally is redundant. I just think being a decent person who listens to people and tries to do better and doesn't bully people and doesn't think that one ideology is fucking how the world is in all cases, right? Yeah. So so sadly, a ton of trans healthcare has a huge ethics oversight and accountability. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think it needs to kick in. Sorry, I wasn't saying it shouldn't have gone to court. I'm saying it shouldn't have gone in the first place. Right. And the thing is that most, 10% of fuckwits are going to fuck it up for everybody else. And there's a huge money making thing here. Trans healthcare is largely experimental and it attracts the wrong kind of people, the wrong kinds of surgeons, right? You see that with like weight loss surgeons and plastic surgeons as well, where it, because it's it's something that's considered to be sort of an elective procedure, it attracts the money-making people, right? It attracts the kind of people that don't give a fuck about their patients, right? And I think the penalties for these things need to be harsher. I think medical malpractice needs to be fucking harsher. Like the one thing that's good about America is the fucking malpractice suits are fucking huge. Yes, malpractice insurance is huge, but at least, like we don't get that kind of shit here, right? You can't have those kinds of lawsuits here. But, I think that, again, it starts at the medical school, which is not everyone who studies medical school should fucking proceed. And I think that if there's a teacher or a lecturer or somebody who has concerns about the personality or makeup, right? This is actually something that they're doing at med schools, having gone through all of that testing, is that they now do an interview and personality types and like they're recruiting more doctors out of sort of non-science degrees now. Now you still have to be a pretty fucking pretty big egghead, right, in order to get into medical school. But at the same time, they are sort of now all medical degrees now are postgrad. So you've got to do an undergrad first. Now you've got these, because basically they did identify this problem. Again, like I think it's actually we've got to trace things further back than I think people realize, which is that they realized that there was like years and years, like the way that medical school was designed was that it was just attracting people who only wanted the status, had no bedside manner, and they were all just people who were just engineers, science, those sorts of people, and they had no fucking people skills. So what they did was they made medical school postgrad, and that now you could actually, if you have it, like, so they're accepting more people from the humanities. Also, when you sit GAMSAT, you have to do a test around the humanities and social sciences and ethics and that sort of stuff, and an interview. So I think that, again, it's about creating well-rounded doctors, right? And making sure that, the registration board come down really fucking hard on this stuff. Now, the medical registration board is pretty fucking strict here, right? But again, I think this has been a blind spot. I think it's one of those things where it was not known really what was going on. But I think once people become aware, things kick in, things get better, right? Yeah, well, like IQ, no, exactly, right? And so, but I think as we see that cohort of medical grads sort of hit and get through residency and that sort of thing, then, people will be more inclined to call out bad behavior in their peers as well, right? Because people who study humanities often have a pretty decent sense. That's the good part about social justice, is that I think, and call out shit, right, is that I do like the fact that these old guard crooks, right, these old men who get away with fucking murder and mistreatment of female patients and, vulnerable people and children, we're more likely to speak out about that now, right? There's more female doctors, there's more critical theory like scholarship going through medical school, right? And what's happening is that people will be more inclined to see that kind of structural abuse, right? And that institutional abuse. So I think that we are largely heading in the right direction. This is why the MAGA bros can fuck off, because critical theory does have a purpose, and I think it does help to see power dynamics in a lot of things, right? And it does help to make a better doctor if you study some humanities. You don't replace it. But at the same time, it's good to be critically assessing the frameworks in which I think James Lindsay's really largely bad faith in his criticism of this stuff. Here we go. I was thinking of disavowing. I'm disavowing myself from James Lindsay's take on this and his behavior as well. I think he's not helping and I think he's wrong. There you go. Stay mad, everyone. Feel free to unfollow me. I don't give a fuck anymore, right? I just, I'm just trying to figure stuff out. And if you want to help me do the right thing, stay watching. This has gone too long. I'm sorry about the light and stuff. I'm just fucking, I don't know how to do, like, I need to, like, I end up restructuring all of my, like, everything around the fact that I haven't got an SLR camera that does, like, that is actually, it's a webcam. So I need to do 3-point lighting just to get the face to look right. But then I end up with fucking shit in my eyes and, like, exposure and fucking, it's just a webcam. I really need to get a fucking SLR. Sugar daddies. Buy me a Canon M50, please. I'm joking, but right. I think that we've just reaching a point where it's time for me to be the adult now. I'm being the adult. Look at me. I love you. I've got to go and do some work. Really got to go do some work. Thank you for your precious life seconds. Stay mad, everyone. I'm just going to speak truth as I see it. And if I'm wrong tomorrow, I'll correct myself. I don't need to be corrected, really. Okay? I don't need to be dogpiled. I can figure out if I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong about something or have misspoken about something, then do point that out nicely. And I'll correct it. But for the most part, these are my thoughts and my perspective. Right? OnlyFans account. Nobody wants to see that shit. Because I lost 50, I lost a bunch of weight. You don't need to see that shit, man. It's fucking saggy as fuck. Although, there's probably people with fetishes like for that. I should look into that. No. Anyway, I love you. Thank you for your precious life seconds. I love you, Rain, Laurie, Judith. Who else? 212-251-239. Jennifer. Who else? I think that was... Did I miss anybody? The fuckwits from Periscope. Oh, and Ida. Thank you. I hope that I was clear about, I just want to get people thinking. The fact that I can't even... I don't feel like I can even go to a fucking branch meeting because of the conduct of others that I'm attached to, and that I'll be so far it hasn't come to my doorstep, and I think there's a reason for that. But, I don't want it to. I'm just, I'm gonna, I don't, whatever. I love you. Bye. Where's the button? Bye.